As we learn more about Donald Trump's budget proposal, we're finding that he is cutting programs that help individuals who actually voted for him, including farmers. Now, here's some details on what he plans to do when it comes to farmers. The White House wants to axe 15% or $3.6 billion from the Agriculture Department's budget. According to budget documents, officials plan to efficiently use taxpayer resources to find savings by eliminating overly generous subsidy programs and eliminating other safety nets.
Okay, so I actually love that, and I'll tell you two reasons why. One is the farmers have been getting subsidies for a long time, which I think is, if you're a conservative, you would actually care that it perverts the market. But and some conservatives do, to be fair. But most of the elected Republicans are like, yeah, whatever, dude. Those are our people. They're our voters, so we'll give them all the goodies. And then if you ever give anything to a single minority, we'll yell and scream about how, oh yeah, you're trying to give them, be Santa Claus to them and do government giveaways. Well, all those farmers in the red states, you've been giving these billions of dollars to the whole time. Now, so is Trump being principled here? No, what he did was he did tariffs, which hurt the farmers even more. So he gave them extra subsidies. So what happened to no handouts? So he's apparently taking back some of those extra subsidies here. And I guarantee you, cue it, not just Democrats, Republicans will howl. They won't mind you taking away Medicare, Medicaid, or any of those other things. Oh my God, students and crushing them with more debt, who cares? But if you touch their beloved farmers, and by the way, their farm corporations, they will howl. They'll say, how could you? We need those giveaways. They're not for minorities, they're for us. Okay, you'll see.
So while I agree that there are some major corporations that these farmers fall into or fall under, farmers that don't necessarily need those subsidies, what I'm more worried about is that this is gonna negatively impact the small farmers, right? Because what usually ends up happening when these budget proposals actually get implemented, it's usually not the corporations that get hurt. It's usually the little guy. So I would want to see, which subsidies specifically are getting taken away. If they are the subsidies that you just mentioned right now, the ones that Trump gave as, I don't know how you want to describe it, but they got hurt by the trade war and he didn't want to lose their vote, and so he gave handouts to some farmers. If those are the subsidies he's taking away, well then that's a good argument. But I don't know if that's really the case.
But knucklehead, that's why you shouldn't have done the trade war in the first place. That's why you shouldn't have done the tariffs in the first place. Like, if you think he has some grand strategy, you haven't been paying any attention at all. Apparently he was surprised when China retaliated, and retaliated specifically at US farmers, because he's not bright and he didn't realize that that's the most obvious thing in the world.
So let's talk a little bit about healthcare. Donald Trump talks a big talk when it comes to helping individuals who are suffering with AIDS, but what he says is very different from what he's proposing behind the scenes. Trump's budget would provide $291 million to the Department of Health and Human Services to defeat AIDS, but funding would shrink for global programs trying to do the same thing. So he's cutting foreign aid for organizations that are fighting AIDS in other countries.
So let me give context to that. So during the State of the Union, he bragged about how he's going to give extra money to the fight against AIDS. And in fact, he said, we're going to eradicate the disease in 10 years. So I would love that, and like I said earlier in the program, Bush actually did do great work in getting more funding for AIDS programs. One of the rare good things that he did. But Trump is full of it. So wow, 291 million. Well, that sounds pretty good, right? It is 1/48th of what he is requesting for the wall, on top of what he already is going to spend illegally this year by circumventing Congress. So he's asking 48 times more money for the wall, which is generally useless, than for fighting AIDS. So, okay, now, if that was all though, I'd say, hey, I guess it increased a little bit, so I'll take it, just like we did with Bush, right? No, while he gives with one hand, he takes away with the other. So in November, he had a decision to cut costs at Medicare by reducing the number of drugs that are available to people with HIV. And then for the international programs that Anna mentioned, there's a 22% reduction in their budget. So overall, he is devastating a lot of these programs. And if anything gets cured with HIV and AIDS, it will be despite President Trump, not because of him.
Yesterday, we talked a little bit about what he wants to do when it comes to Medicare, a program that he claimed he wanted to protect when he was campaigning. Well, it turns out that his budget proposal would definitely cut the Medicare program. The proposal would cut $818 billion from Medicare over 10 years, in part by squeezing payments to hospitals, nursing homes, and home health providers, and it envisions cutting nearly $1.5 trillion from Medicaid.
Early reports yesterday was that the number for Medicaid was much lower. It turns out, nope, $1.5 trillion. So he said that, well, how much cuts to Medicare and Medicaid during the campaign, he said? Quote, no cuts. He said no cuts to Medicare and Medicaid at all. So, but he gave away $2 trillion to the rich. So now he needs the money. So where's he gonna go? $1.5 trillion for Medicare, Medicaid, 818 for Medicare. One, obvious liar, a cheap politician with his cheap fake promises, right? Number two, he never cared about you. And most importantly, we told you when they gave it away to the rich and corporations and tax cuts that they'd have to get it from somewhere, and they were gonna get it from you. And so the guys in the red hats didn't believe it. They're like, no, Trump's looking out for me. I'm about to retire and I got this great Medicare. Get your government hands off my Medicare. Everything's gonna be great. Nope, they needed the money, so they took it from you.
Well, the incredible thing is they still believe that Trump is looking out for them. I mean, there is nothing that he can do. I mean, Trump can show up to their house and set it on fire, and they would still think, no, Trump's making housing affordable for us. He's looking out for us. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, and look, so for Medicaid, the overwhelming recipients are poor white Americans who disproportionately voted for Trump. But if you tell them he's cutting Medicaid, they would probably celebrate. And then when they found out their check was getting cut, they'd be like, what? What the hell's going on? I thought Medicaid just went to blacks. But wait, you receive Medicaid every day. I know, but I mean, I deserve it. So that'll happen, and that'll be fun to watch, okay? But Medicare is inarguable. Every one of us pays through the payroll tax. If you've ever worked a day in your life, you paid into Medicare. And Trump's proposal, luckily, it's, he can't do it unilaterally, and the Democrats now control the House, and they're not gonna let this stand, I hope, okay? And they say they're 100% against it, we'll see how the negotiations go, etc. But Trump's proposal is to rob you of the money you paid into Medicare your whole life. Why? He already gave it away to the top tax earners. So again, let me remind you, in the tax cuts, the top 1% got a $61,000 tax break on average every single year. The Medicare you paid into, Trump wants to rob because he wanted to give the top 1% an extra $61,000 a year. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.